This episode may contain strong language and adult themes. Viewer and listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to episode 37 of the 22 Dropouts. We are your favourite and your worst rugby referee show and podcast. Don't forget to check out our social media pages, top of the screen right now. It's at 22 Dropouts on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. We had an interesting show last week. Mainly because we talked a little bit of rugby. So just before we talk a little bit more, say hello to the gang. All wave gang, it's like Celebrity Squares tonight. Look at that, the gang's got a bit bigger. We're joined by a number of people from overseas tonight. We'll come on to that in a little bit. But now some of you will have seen from our posts and things that we were supporting the My Club Group #CovAid football game. And I know I'm swearing, I'm saying the word football on screen, and it does hurt my conscience terribly. But it was going to be this Sunday. Harry Redknapp, Sam Allardyce were going to be managing the two teams. Guess what? Even, who was it? It was going to be in it. Kieran Bracken was going to play, of all things, mainly because he might be better than he ever was at rugby. But hey, you never know. It was all in aid of Masks for Our Heroes. As you probably know, that tonight that area of Essex, it was going to be at Stratford, then it moved to Chelmsford, and tonight it's been announced they're going into Tier 3. So that has had to be cancelled, which is a real shame. But look, it will come back. We will be posting again about it in the new year when it does finally take off. Don't forget, you can watch it live streamed, and a lucky 400, as it was going to be, will be able to go to the stadium and watch it as well with COVID tests before you get in. Look at that, 2 for the price of 1. So look, keep that in mind as well, and just keep looking at our social media channels for when that comes up. Now, before we get on with the reason that everybody's here tonight, I don't know whether we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. I think we might have touched on it with the Steve Thompson and people like that getting involved with this lawsuit concerning concussion and long-term head injuries in the game. Alex Popham was one of the other ones. There's been a lot said, and to be fair, guys, while we've got such a diverse range of people on, what do you think about this? Do you think this is going to go anywhere? Shout up if you with your opinions. Go on, Daryl.
Did you see the statement by Eddie Jones as well about under 12s in relation to the Steve Thompson?
No. What's he said?
So he said that under 12s tackles should be banned above the waistline.
Above the waistline.
Yeah. So to get players in that position early on as young players, so that they don't come up and make contact with the head, which is one of the challenges the game faces.
You don't go into rugby thinking that you're going to be surrounded in cotton wool, do you? It's a full-on contact sport. I do have to say, a little bit like you've got to wear gum shields these days. I think we're heading for a time, and I don't disagree with this, where the wearing of scrum caps is compulsory, even in adult professional game.
Yeah, but they found out scrum caps are not great for concussion because people leave with the head more. So
education again, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's changed recently with current research, isn't it? With that that 5 millimeters actually had a large impact on lowering concussion rates.
There is another one on the market, or about to be released to the market, which has been proven to reduce that shaking in the brain. Now, one of the reasons that we're joined by so many of our compatriots from across the pond tonight is that very, very sadly we have to announce that one of their great friends and referees, Jason Harper, passed away quite suddenly due to a motorcycle accident. I'm going to pass over to Phil and let him take up the story and tell you a little bit about Jason.
Thanks, Mike. And actually, I'm a little choked up. People coming onto this podcast to pay a little respect to Jason and his memories. Funny environment. You know, most of the stories are going to have funny tags to them and everything else. But from my heart, a gentle person who is lost way too soon, tragically. But we'll move on from that in a little bit. So Jason, I've known Jason, I'm going to say over 10 years. We refereed together. I was the president of Southern California for several years up until 2018. And then he's also done some things under Back 10 Pros and everything else. And every time, I'm sure we're going to get a very similar feeling from everybody who's going to come on here, is the guy has always been a consummate professional, really enjoyed life, loved rugby, loved the people around him, and he was very compassionate to support the game of rugby and those around her, whether it was helping them or just being able to make himself available. And I know we're all going to tell a couple of stories and everything else, and I'm going to kick it off with a story. I had spoken to Jason about 4 days before his accident. He passed away on December the 6th, last Sunday, in a motorcycle tragic. But I talked to him about 4 or 5 days earlier, trying to convince him to go on the British Lions tour with me next summer in South Africa. And the reason why I reached out to him is because I actually convinced him last year to go on the Rugby World Cup final and consolation final. And that's the funny story. So I talked to him for weeks, probably months prior to the Rugby World Cup. I said, I've got tickets. I've got my room booked and everything else. You just need to get your airfare in order and all that stuff. And he kept sitting on the fence. Well, I don't know if I could do it, right? And anybody knows Jason, he's like that a lot, right? But so I'm sitting in LAX waiting to catch my flight to Tokyo. And I said, look, I'm at the airport. I'm going. I have all this stuff arranged. He said, well, let me talk to Teresa, see if I can get permission. I said, dude, the game is in 2 days' time. I mean, you need to get the permission and get over there, right? And so I left at LAX. When I landed in Japan, I had a call waiting for me. It was Jason, and I'm waiting to get my baggage. He said, look, I'm catching a flight tonight, and I'll be in Tokyo tomorrow. He says, but you got a room for me to sleep in. I said, I've got a room. I've got the tickets and everything else. And he had so much fun in those 3 days that we were together in Japan. And that's how I'm going to remember him. It's one of those real passionate, fun times that we actually did things together. So it's obviously off the field, but brought it together. If you'll notice about people who are on this call, a lot of us are wearing referee jerseys that we have worn when Jason and us individually have refereed together. So I guess, Pete, your picture's up next. Maybe I'll turn it over to you next.
I think me and Julian and Jason decided to go and get absolutely completely hammered one night in the piano bar in New York.
Oh God!
And
best night ever.
It was my best ever night. I mean, I even went back the next night and it wasn't as good. It was just like, it was quality, absolutely quality. And I got him to thank, and obviously.
I mean, he took us that weekend or week or however long we were there. He drove us around in his car, took us from the ground when we stuck, even when I came off the pitch and hadn't had a drink all day, and they shut the bar on me. He got me back to the hotel in time for a pint. He met us up in the New York bar for the referee meeting afterwards, and then dragged us to that night in the piano bar in New York hotel. And we walked in and we were like, we had no idea what to expect. And he said, trust me, boys. And I still can't listen to Bohemian Rhapsody without thinking of that night.
Yeah, Bohemian Rhapsody.
And play the guitars on there. Just fantastic. Cool guy. And
he loved the Vegas
again the year after when Sam was there. And he did the same again, took us out, looked after us, drove us around everywhere, kept in touch, talked motorbikes all the bloody time. It was great. Loved him. He was one of the top blokes on that trip.
He's the one that inspired us to try and get a road trip together, didn't he? To go and do a road trip with him with and then we ended up in Vegas to do the rugby.
Yeah.
And obviously it never ever transpired. But
Well, we nearly tried it last year with Rami. We didn't include you, though, Pete.
yeah, thankfully.
Can't ride a
be
motorbike, mate.
I'll be dangerous on a motorbike. I'll just go on the sidecar.
A bit like Olive from On the Buses, mate.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. I'm petrified of them.
So what year is your jersey from, Pete?
2017.
And I put
And Julian?
2018s on.
They both of them are Vegas jerseys, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, he was a fun host. He looked forward to Vegas, the international HSB sevens every year. He really did look forward to that.
No, it was quality. No, good guy.
Yeah. And you know, and the other part, I know John Wells on this, but we used to meet up with Jason down at the host hotel, and at that time he would be surrounded by people who like he was buying drinks for, or saying, hey, we're going to this place, like he just told you guys. But he was always one of those people that people always move towards, right? Very special man.
Great guy.
Yeah. Cullen, did you want to go next? Are you here, Cullen?
I'm sort of here. I apologize. I'm on the road. I'm halfway between Florida and New York, and the closest thing I could find to a rugby jersey is a fake, I don't know, kind of a Land's End thing, but it's the best I can do. Can you hear me? Can you see that I'm in a parking lot in the rain?
Yeah. No, I was see you.
I was thinking
That's a hell of a journey.
What's that?
I say that's a hell of a journey.
I know. I found out about this yesterday as I was driving through South Carolina, and I actually had to pull over and kind of collect myself. Jason obviously was a big part of my life when I was refereeing in Southern California, and it made me think of one story that there were these two Division III clubs, and he was mostly reffing Division I and II games at that point, of course. But there were these two Division III clubs who were, let's just say, predominantly Pacific Islanders and probably not from the same island. And the last time they had played, it basically digressed into a brawl. So Ted Nozaki and I were assigned as ARs, and Jason was assigned to the center. And it was a wet, cold day in Southern California. And he went out there with just his warm, gracious attitude and was in control of the match from the initial whistle. And at the end of the match, which was a surprisingly excellent match from our perspective, he said to Ted and me, that was the best game of rugby I've refereed in months. I mean, it was a great game. I mean, everybody elevated everything. I mean, and that's just what he brought.
Yeah, he was very supportive on the pitch, and he actually was able to control it even in a hostile environment where people could get agitated very quickly. He had very, very good demeanor. So thank you, Cullen. I appreciate that. Dana, you're going to go next.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I met Jason. I'd moved to San Diego, and I'd actually been out of rugby for a little bit, taking a break. And I showed up at the Unicorns tournament. Mark Wheeler was there and Jason was there. And I hadn't met Jason. He didn't know me, though I'd kind of been on the East Coast and the Midwest, and then I was out of the game for a while. And, there was a lot of talk about Women's World Cup and everything. And I'm like, I've had 5 years away from the game. And there was a lot at that point. We had a lot of Southern California referees on the national panel, and Jason was kind of knocking on the door. And it would have been very, very easy, at that moment and several other moments for him to be kind of like, who's this person who's kind of come in and slid into my spot as the next cab off the rank? And he just was never that way. He just incredibly generous. We were 2007 at San Diego at Petco Park. He was a part of the staff, in the season before, and in LA, I'd been on the staff and then got pulled into AR. And then the next season I got pulled up and refereed at the men's sevens. And we were talking in the bar later, as you do. And he said, yeah, I was watching you and I was going, oh, she's not going to get there. Oh shit, she got there. How did she get there? Oh, she's not going to get there on time. And it was just so amazing to have somebody who, you know, at that point I'd been refereeing a couple of years in Southern California, and we'd spent a lot of time together developing, and it was just so amazing to have that just unmitigated support with this really basic honesty of also, I'm really super jealous you got this chance, but I'm really glad you got it. And, you know, a lot of us have these kind of memories from Jason, but what I will always remember, and I when I got the text message that he'd passed away, my first thought was, I remember when he met Treza, when he met his wife, and I just remember how he lit up. You know, he just lit up, because I'm not sure he ever thought he was ever gonna, you know, I don't know, that he was ever gonna do that thing. And I've scrolled back through some messages and about when, you know, when his first daughter, when Stanley was born, and then, you know, some exchanges we had. And I think I just feel like the world has been robbed, and you know, whatever the circumstances are, it's just horrible, because this is that's what I think of when I think of Jason. Is just generous and enormously giving, but never, you know, never not fun. And I'm really, really glad, you know, we kept in contact on and off over the years, even after I moved to Germany. And 2017, he extended a work trip so he could drive he extended a work trip so he could be here when Germany and the US played. And then also they could drive it at Hoffenheim, and we got to see each other. And I'm really glad, because it's been quite a while since I've been back around. And even when I went to Southern California, I was in San Diego, he was in LA. So yeah, gonna really, really miss him. So thanks so much for organizing the chance to remember out loud.
Thank you, Dana. I know it's hard. It's hard on a lot of us, but we got to keep that positive and keep the, you know, he's touched us all in different ways, but they're all the same. So,
Yeah.
Jay, you want to go next? Do you have a story you want to share? You're muted, son. Rookie. There you go.
I know. Sorry. So, I first met Jason in 2004. I was a little older when I started playing rugby. I was in my middle 30s, and I knew my playing days were going to be very long. So I went and took the class and went to a tournament where they were blooding us all in, and it was time for my game, and I froze. I wouldn't. I said, I can't do this. I can't do this. So they got Jason, and I shadowed him my very first game, and it was an amazing experience. I actually learned a lot from him. Every time I saw him, he was always happy, and he always had good things to say about everybody. And one of my favorite things that he would say when I'd come off the pitch was, "You missed a great game." And so that's one of the big things I remember about him. I actually had talked to him not long ago, and him and I were supposed to get together and go ride motorcycles together. And when I found out this happened, I was just like, oh my God. He was such an accomplished rider, and you know, he was out every weekend. And we talked bikes a little bit and stuff, but he will be definitely missed. He was one of the best referees I've ever seen, and knew how to control the game, and he was just he was a great person, and all the players liked him too. I never heard a crass word from anyone about him from the players. They always wanted him to referee their games because they knew they would get a good game. So I feel bad that he's gone, and I really hope that the wife and the two kids are going to be okay. I know there was a GoFundMe page for the kids' schooling that they've already started, and that's about all I got. I want I want him to be remembered. And I really appreciate you putting this together and letting us steal your podcast for a while to memorialize him.
Well, thank you, Jay. I can see it's right from your heart, right? We're going to have to take a break here in a second. And when we come back, Clement's going to start out. But just to capture on something you just mentioned, there is a GoFundMe page set up in Jason Harper's name to help with supporting education for him. And I encourage people who are watching this podcast to go to it and donate. So thank you. We're going to take a quick break here, Mike, and then we'll come back after a short break. Thank you.
When you need clear and concise match official communication systems, look no further than the brand new AXIWE AT350.
Radios they're always useful, they always help us, especially the AXIWEs, where all three of us can be open at any time and we can have open communication.
Available now from refcomsglobal.net. Investing profits into match official development worldwide.
Thank you. All right, so we're back, Mike, and I appreciate this, and everybody is. Again, we're talking about the memories of Jason Harper on this cast for a while, and we're going to go right to Clement. I guess what we should have done, honestly, I know some people have said this, but we're all around the world. Actually, I think there's about 14 countries that may be represented in part on this call, and there's several people who couldn't make the call because of the timing and everything else. But Clement, where are you currently? And then let's get to your story.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. Hi, guys. So I don't have a Vegas jersey with me right now in Dubai. I've been stuck here for the last 9 months because of COVID, and obviously I've been following Jason on Facebook. We've had a few chats as well. The first time I met him was a couple of years back at the Vegas Sevens. I think he was refereeing at the Heritage Park where they had the under 18s playing, and I was there for the first time. I was this new boy, from the Middle East. No one knew about me and all that, but pretty soon we sort of hit it off quite well. And the conversation started about the Dubai Sevens. Then he wanted to know about Sri Lanka, and we ended up having a few beers later on. But you go to these tournaments, and in any tournament you go to, you always have this one or two guys who kind of stand out. And for me, he was one of those guys because he made me feel so comfortable that after a few hours or after a few minutes of chatting with him, I felt like we are on the same wavelength, and he's somebody who I can relate to. We spoke about games. He was always kind of how can we do this better? So I kind of got the feel that okay, here's a guy who's like probably a few years elder to me, maybe on his way out in terms of refereeing and close to retirement, close to being a coach. But he just wanted to make things better. He just wanted the boys to have fun. He just wanted to kind of make sure the players gave their best. And the thing that I remember about him the most was, yes, he was talking about his bikes, and that's something I don't really like. But the way he sort of, described it, I wanted to get on a bike myself if I got the opportunity. But he was one of those, like, I think the eulogy on his Facebook page described it very well. He would make friends with anyone. He was one of those guys who would kind of, make anyone feel comfortable. And it's sad, but I think we got to sort of, celebrate the fact that he was a good friend to all of us. And for a stranger like me to feel so comfortable, he had a lot to do with that first Vegas appearance. And of course, we met up again in 2019. We had a few beers, but he was kind of full of life, and it's just sad to see him go.
Well, Clement, you mentioned on his Facebook page, to me, there was three things he loved in life: rugby, motorcycles, and his family, and particularly his two daughters, right? Not taking anything away from anything else, but he was so proud of those girls doing junior lifeguards, and and school programs, and then Joe showing the puppies and everything else. So I get what you're saying, and I know other people who knew him know exactly what you're saying. So he was a gentleman. So anyway, thank you, Clement. Sam, we're coming to you, bud.
Yeah.
Do we need to turn the subtitles on?
No, you're all right, mate. Don't worry. Cheers. No, I mean, Jason's one of those guys. Like, I mean, my first trip over to now this big, huge country over to the west side called the States back in 18. You know, so sort of novice guy. You know, going over there for Vegas sevens and at Heritage Park, and he's just one of those guys. Like, when you all met up in the room to start with, that you always welcomed you and had a smile on your face, stuck his hand out straight away for shaking your hand, and very welcoming and just a down to earth guy. That's what really stood out for me. That he always had that smile on his face, and he just loved being around the guys and and being around the game. I mean, we all know how many hours and hours and hours we have to do as a shift at Vegas Sevens. So, it was always good being able to come off the pitch and have someone smiling, sort of give you a refreshing drink. Well, nice, your name's Julian. We have to get proper service, but there you go. But yeah, he's just when it's so sad that you lose someone that is a genuine character and has a love for the game and and just a genuinely nice chap, and as you can see from the amount of people that have came on this podcast tonight, let alone the people that haven't managed to come on it from around the world, it just shows you that he touched different people in different ways and hit the nerves with the right people. So condolences to his family, obviously, and hopefully they get well looked after, and I'm sure people will do that and rally around them. And it's just sad news, obviously, when I heard about it over the weekend, and I just wish his family the best and all of his friends and family.
Thank you, Sam, for those kind words. Richard, we're going to come to you next, bud.
Thanks, everyone, and thanks, Mike and Phil, for putting this together. Really appreciate it. And I'd like to just obviously echo what everyone's already said. He was definitely dedicated to having fun, right? When you're around Jason, you're always going to have a good time. The first time I met him was down in 2007 when I flew down to do, I think it was Belmont Shore and Golden Gate, and he was going to be my AR, and he was kind enough to pick me up on the Friday night, dropped me off at the hotel, and he said to me, "You'll pick me up the next morning and we're going to go the scenic route to the ground." So he picked me up, and it was a very scenic route, except we got a little bit lost. So we ended up arriving a little bit late, which wasn't that bad. It was about 45 minutes before the game, but it was these big grounds with these massive change rooms. And I said to him, "Where are the teams?" And he was like, he knows where they are. Right. So we spent the next 20 minutes looking for the teams. So we eventually found the teams and everything. It was a little bit stressed, because it was a semi-final and all the players were sort of tense. And, I just met Nick Racono, who was my one AR, and then Jason. And a little bit serious, as we're about to walk on the field, he turns around to me and he goes, "Don't screw it up." Which is you got to learn that was typical of Jason. He didn't actually use the word screw, he used another word, but apparently this was a little bit clean.
It is anyway, a family show.
Yes, a family show. So
no, it's fucking not.
I'm looking around for this family show. I can't fucking find one.
Yeah, well, so he turned around to me and he said, "Don't fuck it up." So we sort of just took all the pressure off, and off we went onto the field and did the game. But surprisingly, beyond rugby, the thing that we connected on more than rugby, was that I think deep down in our hearts, we both goths, and we liked the dark music from the late 70s and early 80s, especially Joy Division and Bauhaus. And over the years, he'd always send me photographs of all the shows he'd been to. And he'd always send me pictures, and he'd always try to get one up on me, so like he was like, "Did you see Bauhaus?" I was like, "Yeah, I saw them in Utah." And he was like, "Oh, well, here's a photograph of me with the singer from Bauhaus signing my shirt," that kind of thing. So, I mean, besides rugby, I think we connected a lot more in music. So even though he was riding a motorbike and he had all these bright clothes, I'm sure underneath it he was wearing all black. So A really fantastic guy, and my sincere condolences to his family, to his wife and his daughters. He will definitely be missed. And I'll absolutely miss all those messages I get from him with pictures in black and white. So, and thanks again for putting it on, guys. Appreciate it.
Richard, that's awesome. And it's so nice to be able to talk a little bit outside of rugby too. So I appreciate that. John, I think you're possibly one of the last people.
All right, yeah. I didn't get a chance to actually referee with Jason very much, but I did get a chance to organize a lot of refereeing that he was involved in with you. And you know, in the time that I've been here, I spent most of my time away, and we just crisscrossed we ran into each other at USA Sevens every year. And he's just a wonderful person to be around at a tournament like that. And you know, we were usually doing a lot of organizational stuff. So it's very cool. But Jason was always first to put his hand up, and not only first to put his hand up for the USA Sevens, first to put his hand up for everything that had to do with Vegas. So we were always incredibly grateful for the fact that, you know, Southern Cal sees Vegas stepchild, and it's always difficult to get people to come and out. But Jason put his hand up in a second, come here all the time. So he's a great person. He's going to be sorely missed, and he's already missed. You know, like, again, looking, you know, want to send our condolences to his family and wish them all the best. And we'll be looking in on them, you know, as time goes on, because he was one of the first people part of Back 10 Pros, and we were very grateful to have him in everything he did.
Thank you, John. The one thing I know, we're going to conclude this here now. I know, does anybody else want to say anything before I conclude this? Yeah.
We've got Pablo who's managed to join us now, Phil.
Yeah, Pablo, I guess you've been called out on the carpet.
Yeah, so I had only gotten to meet Jason a couple times, seeing as how I barely got onto the referee scene not too many years ago. But he was a really good guy, really good referee coach, really informative in the way he would speak to you to let you know what's going well and ways to improve. So it wasn't really critique, it was just information. So I really appreciated about him, and a very sad thing to hear, especially since right now I'm restoring a motorcycle for my brother. You know, we got to remember that we got to be safe and watch out for each other.
Actually, that's a good message, Pablo, and thank you for your work. I guess just in conclusion, you know, we're going to send out our sincere condolences out to the family, Teresa and the daughters, and his extended family. I met his cousin in Japan because they came over from Hong Kong, go to the Rugby World Cup final when they found out England was going to be in it. And Jason contacted them and said, hey, we're going to meet. And we actually met up in some, I'm going to call it a dive Japanese restaurant, but it wasn't a dive restaurant, just one of those little typical small Japanese restaurants, just off Shibuya Square, and met with the family. So they're just genuine people. The one thing I'm going to finish up with is that Back 10 Pros is going to look at creating a referee award for all of our tournaments that we're going to get involved in. Whenever that's going to be restarting, we're not sure. And we're going to name it the Jason Harper Award, because I think it's important to understand that everything what we all have together, we've said about Jason, is really the heart and soul of a good individual. And I want to try to immortalize that. So I'll probably be reaching out to several of you people to try to lay that out there. And again, thank you all for taking the time. And I know there was a lot of people who couldn't make it onto this call, but maybe in a year's time we can have a celebration again and have this discussion and bring in some of the new award winners as well. So thank you all, Mike. I'm going to turn it back over to you.
No, thank you, Phil, and thank you everybody else as well. And don't forget, when we do all come over to Las Vegas and we run a live 22 dropouts at the MGM Grand in front of an audience of thousands, tens of thousands, 5 people, 5 or 5,000.
5. I think it's 5.
Just 5, yeah. That sounds a bit like our podcast. We'll have 5 people in the audience, and you guys can all come on the stage with us as well. Now we are going to take another quick break. But when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the rugby at the weekend and some of the refereeing that went on as well. So, guys, we'll see you in a couple of minutes right after this break. Welcome back to part 3 of this week's 22 Dropouts. What a wonderful tribute we've had from the guys from all over the world for Jason tonight. It's clear he was an inspiration. He was somebody who touched the hearts of a lot of people, and he definitely will be sorely missed. And one of the things we talked about in the break is, wouldn't it be great when we'll go over to Vegas and we do something in his memory over there? Now, I do know that Peter's got a special visual message for tonight. Okay, so you haven't talked about Mel then, so that's okay, because you were banned.
Sam's not saying anything.
Sam's looking. Sam's trying not to say anything. He's looking.
I can hear what he's thinking.
Oh, can't we all? And it starts in fuck and ends in off.
I'll get a message tomorrow. A Scottish accent.
Sam, to be fair, mate, he hasn't mentioned Mel once, so you can't moan at him for that.
No, we're not allowed to. We're not allowed to. Not allowed to. It's not fair.
Not allowed to. By the way, is she home tonight, Sam, or is she out?
No, Pete didn't mention her, but you have. So shut the fuck up and move on.
God, I just wondered if you're going to get interrupted. Anyway, right. So we did say we were going to talk a little bit about rugby, but actually winding Sam's up is far more fun. Right. Well, rugby at the weekend, European Championship in its amended format. Anybody see the comments from Johan van Graan, the Munster head coach this weekend? Anybody watch the Munster game against Quins? I think it was Sunday, was it?
I didn't watch any on Sunday.
Did you not? What were you doing?
Any rugby at all?
God. Well, you must have heard about it, because he described the game and he described Quins as unacceptable. There was 2 late tackles on the replacement fly half, Ben Healy. Oh man, I tell you what, some of them were crunching as well. They really targeted him. He could be out for a couple of games. That's how bad they were. Alex Dombrandt was the instigator of one. Went in late with the shoulder, no arms as well, and actually got yellow carded for that. And there was another one too, Joe Marler. I think Joe Marler is still working up to hitting him next Saturday. It was that fucking late. And the head coach said it was clearly a tactic from the opposition to constantly hitting late. Interesting, because one of the things that we had on our group chat was just how much Danny Kerr was cheating in that game. So it's a good job they took him off after about 60 minutes so that he couldn't do any more. But I tell you what, if you didn't see that one, just some of the things that were happening from Quins, and we won't talk about the Danny Kerr changing the line, knocking the guy into touch, if you haven't seen it, because you can't comment about it. But if you do get a chance to watch it, I suggest you do. Now, that's just ruined half my discussion points, because look, I've done some fucking research points. I've made some notes. 2 weeks running, Julian, and you didn't watch it for me. Thanks a fucking bunch. Now,
carry on like this, you might actually be in a good show.
It could have been. It could have been a good show. It could have been, Sam, and you've let me down.
I was busy watching all the Welsh teams win, apart from the Dragons.
We're talking about that game in a minute. I tell you what, though, here's a question for you, and it's certainly one that could be good for a group discussion. There was a part in that game. Quins were attacking in the second half, huge forward pass, but they got a line break, and it looked like they may score. Now, from a professional game point of view, with 2 ARs and a TMO, there's sometimes it's allowed to move on, to when they do score, then you can go back and review it, rather than stopping that attack and saying it was forward when it perhaps wasn't. So I get that, but the attack came to nothing, and it ended up with a knock-on on the 5-metre line. Now, on the basis that you can, if they score a try, go all the way back to that and say, no, right back on the halfway, there was a forward pass. We're going to take play back, no try. In this case, you can't do that. So what do we think about whether we should change the way that the TMO is allowed to work there, or we were playing on prepared to come back? What's your thoughts there? Is that something that we should be looking at in the top end of the game?
So the European rugby referees had a meeting last week, and they were very clearly told that they shouldn't go outside of protocol with the TMO.
Can you explain what the protocol of TMO is there, Darren?
Well, you can't go back for a forward pass, like as you say, unless it's a try scoring incident, effectively.
Yeah.
So that would be outside the protocol. But actually, in the Premiership, we look a little bit more at common sense. So we're not supposed to go outside the protocol, but if it's a match affecting or a clear decision that everyone else can see and we've got it completely wrong, then
You're saying us Europeans have got no common sense?
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, Julian, they got a different set of rules. But all the referees last week were told clearly that no going outside protocol. So whether it's right or wrong, Mike, they're under strict instructions to stay within those guidelines.
I get that.
I thought we had laws.
Change that protocol.
I thought we had laws. If it's a huge forward pass, then it's a huge forward pass.
Yeah, but they can only go back.
I think it was missed on the field. Do you think it was missed by the on-field officials, Darryl?
I think it was probably in a dynamic game. It was probably missed, yeah, because it was fast. It was fast. They were moving quickly. They weren't correctly in line, and so they're not going to call it unless they're really going to. They've got a really good view, and they probably assumed a try was going to be scored, and they could go back and check it.
Dana? So that brings me to the question again. If you assume that, because we do, and we can review things if a try is scored, if we think that a try could be scored, and that's why we make that decision to allow play to go on, and a try isn't scored, should that protocol change so that we can then go back?
I think you could, you do see some clever refereeing where, they'll go back quite late for it, but I think it was too late to go back, yeah.
Yeah. What do the other guys think about whether that should be something that changes as a protocol?
No, I just think it's just like, well, if it's that fast, then fair dues. But if it's a forward pass and everybody else has seen it, then what do you do?
Well, the TMO would have seen it at the time. I'm certain, because the TV angle that was at the time was absolutely spot on.
Yeah, but the other thing is that, remember, they brought the TMO to help the referees to make decisive decisions, and then foul play and all this stuff, not on game field, not on, if the referee says, oh, we might have missed it, can we just check? Then fair enough, the TMO then comes into it. But if the referee's missed a forward pass, bloody hell, how many games do we all miss a bloody forward pass or a knock on or whatever it is? And
every game in your case, Pete.
Sure, I referee blind. I referee with my eyes shut, right? But how many times, missing offside? The TMO is not there to referee second referee. It's more to the fact is that if the try was scored, okay, let's go back to check a forward pass, but they can't, and that's why we have to leave it as it is.
And even if it had been a forward pass, the referee wouldn't have gone back and checked it. He'd have relied on the TMO saying, I want to show you a forward pass. And unless the TMO could show him a forward pass, he wouldn't have gone back. But just building on what Pete said there, if you remember 3 seasons ago, TMOs were more heavily involved in the game, and they've actually restricted how much they can get involved to try and not have that second referee on the field almost, and only really to be there for acts of foul play or for material decisions, which is scoring a try.
There's one TMO that really, really gets me, right? And the best thing about him is that he just needs duct tape just across his mouth, and is it Ben Skeen or something like that, right? Oh my God, he needs his mouth tapered up before he even gets there, because he interferes with everything.
Whereas certain other people go and have a poo and eat their biscuits, not at the same time. Now, one of the things that I don't know whether you saw at the weekend, there was at least 3 occasions in the games that I saw where the attacking team on a 5-meter line out gets pinged for blocking. The lifters coming, bringing the ball carrier or the catcher down behind them, so he can't be scragged. I think that's really positive refereeing. It's a long time since we've seen it,
No,
but I'm glad they're picking up on it.
Yeah, Barnsley picked that up in the one game. I saw it. And it
I've
was
not
clear
seen
as day
Wayne's
as well.
game. I've seen it in the Exeter game. Wasps did exactly the same on the 5-meter line against the Dragons, and Leon got pinged for the same thing in their game as well.
In the
I'm
Wasps
really
game,
happy that's getting
there
picked
were
up.
2 players there. They got right in the way of him. They couldn't sack the tackler, sack the ball carrier. It was clear penalty. Referee got it spot on.
Clear and obvious.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was. All the 3 I saw were clear and obvious, but they've been let go for so long. So I'm really glad that is something that's coming out again. Anybody see our friend Mr. Dixon at the weekend refereeing in Montpellier doing the Leinster game?
Yeah.
What did you think?
Well, I sent him a message and he actually asked for feedback, so I gave it to him.
He moaned at me why was I watching the Wasps game instead of his, so I've had to promise I'll watch it tonight for him. No, I'm not on about his game. I'm not on about his game.
Well, no,
serious...
hold on. Carl's not got game, but he had a good game.
Okay.
No, all right. Don't worry.
Subtitles for the non-Scottish will be on the show. Now, Sam, I'm not talking about his game now. I'm talking about, did he just order the wrong size shirt or did he have arms weak?
I sent him a message saying, damn, bro, you really do actually suit pink.
Do you know what? I did actually send him a few messages about looking good in pink. No, I thought he had a good game as well. I did watch some of it. I tell you what, I did like with the ones in blue, going forward and a pick and go about 4 meters from the try line. And he told the guys, don't latch before the contact.
Yeah.
Not to start that torpedo ball, which I did like.
Yeah, that was from a penalty. There were 5-meter penalty. And
was it a penalty?
Yeah, it was a 5-meter penalty, and they tapped to go so they don't create that wedge.
Yeah, I think that's really positive refereeing again.
Yeah, his communication skills have really improved.
Yeah, I think that was really good. I like that it's, there's a lot of new emphasis that's been coming out recently. I mean, we talked last week about the speed of the ruck, didn't we? Particularly from the English referees, the way that they're calling the use it very, very quickly, and we've seen players get it wrong, getting caught out, getting charged down. We've seen turnover ball as well, but it doesn't seem to have filtered down to others. I mean, Mike Adamson at the weekend on the Lyon game, he got the caterpillar might as well have been all the way back to the try line before he said use it. So I'm hoping there's going to be a bit more consistency in Europe over the next few weeks.
I thought you were talking about Scotland there for a second when you said slow ball. I was like, oh Christ, we're talking about Scotland again.
No, we don't have to mention Scotland this week, though.
It'll be slower after Christmas because of Brexit.
Aye, will be.
Well, yeah, because they'll have to have the euro now, won't they? As well.
Aye, we're not going to share our electricity with England, and we're not getting you the water either that you desperately need.
What he says is.
Thank you, Mike. I got something about electricity.
Do you know what? I threaten it every week to put subtitles up. I promise you this week, I am going to put some subtitles up.
Send you the software for it, Mike.
Answers on the postcard, please, to PO Box 8181, London, W12 8QT.
Somebody watches Saturday Swap Shop on the morning.
Yeah, Saturday, No Lemon Swap Shop, or Saturday, whatever it was, going live. It shows what you remember. Now, I mean, I've just talked about Mike Adamson, but I did one of the things that the referees have said over the last few weeks is they're still finding it that they're doing a lot of changes. This quicker ball. Who was it who says, I'm not going to manage you in front of the kicker last week? Who was that?
It was Owens. Owens says, I'm not going to tell you to stop every single time you kick the ball in front of you.
Clearly, Mike Adamson had listened to him because he actually penalised the Gloucester 9. He shouted to him about 3 or 4 times to stop in front, and he didn't listen. And he, what you can't see, viewers or viewer, 5 of you, I suppose that's more than one, isn't it? Is the messages that have just come up on our screen saying the reason he bought playback and penalised the Gloucester 9 is because he couldn't keep up with play. And that could be a tactic I'm going to use on Saturday in my first game back since the end of February as well. Now, anybody see Bastereau at the weekend for Lyon?
Yep.
Playing number 8. Man, he is good.
He's certainly, let's just say, filled out a little bit, but I tell you what, he's still got a heart on him, and he doesn't stop. He stayed on the full 80, didn't he?
Yeah, mate, he was all over the place. He was hitting everything, carrying well, tackling. Why didn't they play him at number 8 for years?
An absolute monster of a guy. Solid.
Oh, he was brilliant. He was brilliant.
So I mean, have we done a European roundup yet? Because I got 1 point.
Yeah, go. Good point before we finish, because we are running a bit over tonight.
Are you ready, Sam?
Oh no, here we go. Hold on. I'm going to mute myself. I'm going to mute myself.
It's actually got nothing to do with. It's actually got nothing to do with Sam because he captures himself every time I speak. But it's about the change of referee because of the England-France game for his own safety. And I just thought that was, I don't know. I still think it was appalling. Should have let the poor lad go out and suffer.
Well, that's a great place to leave tonight's show. We'll see you next week, where hopefully every referee has been suffering with their appointments. We'll see you then. Take care. Good night.